Welcome to a deep dive into Magic the Gathering lore. Specifically, we're going to be looking at Garruk Wildspeaker. From his early life, all the way through some pretty dark times, to eventually his redemption. We'll be pulling from excerpts on the MTG Wiki about Garruk, so get ready for some really fascinating details about him. I think even if you think you know Garruk, you're going to learn something today.
You know, one of the reasons Garruk is so compelling is because his story touches on so many universal themes. Nature, power, corruption, and redemption, all while he's battling across different dimensions.
Exactly. I mean, who doesn't love that? So let's go back to the beginning. Garruk's early years on a farm, learning spells from his father, Racklin. It's almost like a classic story, right?
Yeah.
But what's interesting here is that his father wasn't just any mage, he was a task mage.
Ah, yes. Task mages, those who have this bond with nature, they use their magic to shape and cultivate the world around them. And that early exposure to magic, particularly magic intertwined with nature, likely played a huge role in who Garruk becomes later on.
Right? I mean, those early experiences planted the seeds for this powerful bond with nature that we see later. But it's not all idyllic. When Garruk is just 10 years old, this local sheriff shows up. He's going to conscript Garruk into some lord's army. Garruk's father tells him to run, to flee into the forest.
That moment, that forced separation, and then the pursuit by soldiers, it must have had such an impact on Garruk. This is likely when his distrust of authority starts to grow. And obviously this solidifies his preference for the untamed world.
It's almost like he's forced to grow up fast, right?
Yeah.
He spent 7 years in those wilds, honing his skills as a hunter, learning to commune with animals, even summoning them to his aid.
And then, during a hunt on Chandalar, his Planeswalker spark ignites. Now, for anyone listening who might not know about Planeswalkers, they can travel between dimensions. It's incredibly rare, and it comes with immense power.
Wow, so he's this young hunter, already proven in the wilds, and suddenly he can travel between worlds. That must have been life-changing. And it's on Chandalar, this wild, untamed plane, that Garruk really leans into his role as a hunter. He starts seeking out the most dangerous prey.
In fact, he specifically targets the Ursoth, this legendary beast known for its ferocity. But during this hunt, he has a fateful encounter with Liliana Vess, another Planeswalker. And let's just say it doesn't go well.
Oh, this is where things start to get dark, right? Yeah. Liliana curses Garruk with the Chain Veil. This dark artifact. Tell me more about the Chain Veil. What's the deal with this thing?
It's not just some magical trinket, it's fueled by the life force of others. And it starts to warp Garruk's powers. It twists him into something destructive, gradually turning him into a monster.
That's terrifying. This nature-loving character, corrupted by this dark force. It almost feels like it's attacking his very essence.
It really is. It's such an interesting contract, isn't it? Liliana, a necromancer who wields death magic, curses Garruk with something that twists his very life force. His connection to nature.
Yeah, it's not a straightforward curse.
Not at all. It speaks to the unpredictable nature of magic itself, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. And the complexities of these characters. So we know the Chain Veil is bad news. But how exactly does it affect Garruk? We know the Chain Veil is bad news. But how exactly does it affect Garruk? We know it warps his powers and makes him more aggressive, but is there more to it?
It's not just amplifying his powers, it's twisting them. You know, that connection to nature that Garruk has, it becomes a source of pain and destruction. Imagine the life force that he once used to summon and command beasts, now being used to corrupt and control them.
It's like a perversion of his abilities. Garruk loved and respected nature, and now it's become a source of suffering. I can't imagine the psychological toll that must take.
Absolutely. He's battling a force that's corrupting him from the inside out, losing control of his own magic, his own identity, that struggle, that internal conflict. It's a key element of his story.
And we start to see that as the curse takes hold, right? He becomes more erratic, relentlessly pursuing Liliana, trying to break the curse. He even clashes with other planeswalkers, driven by a rage he can barely control. Is this where he earns the title Apex Predator?
Yes, this is where we see Garruk descend into that primal state. He becomes this fearsome hunter, consumed by a bloodlust that eclipses his former self. But even in this darkness, there are still glimpses of the Garruk we once knew.
Really? I mean, how can someone so consumed by rage still show signs of their former self?
It speaks to the complexity of his character. The curse doesn't completely erase who he is, it just twists and distorts his nature. There's still that spark of the noble hunter, the protector of the wild.
So there's still hope?
A flicker, perhaps.
It makes me think about his absence during the War of the Spark, this huge multiversal conflict. And Garruk, this incredibly powerful planeswalker, is nowhere to be seen. I have to admit, I was curious about that.
And for good reason. It turns out Nicol Bolas, the the mastermind behind the War of the Spark, deliberately kept Garruk out of the conflict.
Bolas was afraid of Garruk.
He recognized Garruk's power, and more importantly, his unpredictability.
So even while corrupted, Garruk was still a force to be reckoned with.
Absolutely, a wild card that could disrupt Bolas's plans.
Wow. Okay, so then we come to Garruk's time on Eldraine. This plane steeped in fairy tales and Arthurian legend. Such a cool setting. But what's even more interesting is his encounter with Oko, this planeswalker known for trickery and manipulation. What role does Oko play in Garruk's story?
Oko sees Garruk in this weakened, vulnerable state as the perfect pawn. He uses his magic to enthrall Garruk, basically brainwashing him into becoming his bodyguard. He even gives Garruk a new name, Dog.
Talk about adding insult to injury. First he's cursed by Liliana, and now he's being manipulated by Oko.
It's demeaning tactics, stripping Garruk of his identity, reducing him to a servant.
But even under Oko's control, there are moments where Garruk's true nature shines through, right? Especially in his interactions with the Kenrith twins, Will and Rowan.
Yes, you see these subtle hints of defiance, these flashes of his innate protectiveness. He aids the twins during a dangerous encounter, even though he's not supposed to. It suggests that deep down, Garruk's heroic instincts, his connection to nature, haven't been totally extinguished.
That's good to hear. Like a tiny ember.
Yeah.
Refusing to be snuffed out. And those interactions with the Kenriths, particularly with Will, lead to a turning point in Garruk's story.
You're exactly right. Will, he senses something's wrong with Garruk and tries to help him. He doesn't understand the curse or Oko's manipulation. He just sees someone in pain.
And that compassion, that genuine attempt to help, actually has unintended consequences, right?
Yeah.
That happens when the Hedron is removed from Garruk's neck.
Well, the Hedron wasn't actually the source of the curse. It was suppressing it. So when it's removed, the curse just explodes outward, overwhelming Garruk, pushing him to the brink.
It's such a devastating scene. This noble griffin, Kakaido's companion, tries to intervene, but gets caught in the crossfire.
It's corrupted by the outpouring of the curse, driven mad.
But even in this chaotic moment, Garruk experiences a strange clarity.
Like the griffin's suffering jolts him back to some semblance of awareness.
Almost like he realizes he has to end its suffering.
And in doing so, he seems to regain a sliver of control.
It's brief, but it's significant. It shows that Garruk's compassion, those core values, are still there.
Buried, yes, but still present.
And fueled by that clarity, he sets off after Oko, determined to break free from his control.
It's a primal reaction, isn't it? The hunter seeking retribution.
But it's also a testament to his resilience.
To his refusal to remain a prisoner.
Even in those darkest moments, there's still that fight for freedom. And we see those heroic impulses resurface, don't we? Tell me about the moment he saves Rowan.
He's still hunting Oko, but he comes across Rowan, who's being attacked by this monstrous creature. And without hesitation, Garruk fights it off, protects her.
Even though he's still battling the curse.
Exactly.
It really speaks volumes about his nature.
That even when lost in the darkness, he can still be a protector. Absolutely. It reinforces that idea that his core identity hasn't been completely erased, that there's this battle raging within him.
Between the curse and his true self.
Yes, and that battle comes to a head as the chase continues. Both Garruk and Will are pushed to their limits.
Will, trying to save Garruk, jumps into that raging river. What a selfless act.
It's a turning point. Will's unwavering belief in Garruk, even when Garruk himself has lost hope, it's what leads to his salvation.
And as Garruk sinks beneath the water, succumbing to the curse's full force, something incredible happens. This is where we see the introduction of the Cauldron of Eternity, right? Tell me about this legendary artifact.
It's shrouded in mystery, said to have the power to judge and cleanse, to strip away impurities and offer rebirth.
And in Garruk's case,
it does just that. Draws him in, absorbs the curse, leaving behind only a lifeless shell.
A symbolic death and rebirth.
The curse that has tormented him for so long is finally gone.
But at a cost, Will is left clinging to life.
And then Garruk wakes up, reborn, cleansed, and sees Will, unconscious, floating in the water. The boy who risked everything to save him.
I can only imagine the emotions going through Garruk at that moment.
Gratitude, guilt, a renewed sense of purpose.
The ripple effect of one selfless act. Garruk's story is pretty incredible. You know, from a young boy on a farm to this powerful planeswalker. He gets cursed, manipulated, and then finally cleansed, reborn. It's an amazing story of resilience and transformation. You were saying before we took a break about that moment when Garruk wakes up.
Yeah.
and sees Will unconscious in the river.
Right, Will, the boy who risked everything to save him.
I bet Garruk is feeling so many things at that moment.
Oh, absolutely. Gratitude, guilt, but also a renewed sense of purpose. You can feel it in that moment.
It's like the ripple effect of one selfless act.
Exactly.
So what does Garruk do?
Well, he pulls Will to safety, of course, make sure he survives.
It's like a symbolic act of repayment, isn't it? Acknowledging that debt he owes to Will.
It is, it really is.
And from this point on, we see a real change in Garruk. He's still a powerful hunter, no doubt. But that rage, that bloodlust, it's gone.
It's been replaced by this calmness, a sense of peace, and most importantly, a desire to protect those who helped him.
So he's not just out for himself anymore.
No, not at all.
He even joins forces with the Kenriths, helps them on their quest to save their father.
Can you imagine that? Garruk, the solitary hunter,
Yeah.
fighting alongside others, working toward a common goal.
What a change.
Yeah.
It really speaks volumes about his character development.
It does. It shows that his experiences, the good and the bad, have fundamentally changed him. He's not just driven by instinct anymore. He's capable of empathy, forming bonds, fighting for something greater than himself.
And he even stays behind. After the twins planeswalk away, he vows to protect their parents. He says, they helped me, I will help them. It's hard to believe those words are coming from the apex predator.
It's incredible, right? That's the depth of his transformation. He's embracing a new path.
A path of healing and protection.
Exactly.
So does he stay on Eldraine forever, protecting the Kenrith's parents?
He does eventually leave Eldraine. He follows the trail of the twins, tracks them to the plane of Kylum.
So he's still looking out for them.
He is, but here's the interesting part. He sees that they're safe, and then chooses not to intrude.
Really? Why would he do that? I mean, wouldn't it have been a nice reunion?
Maybe he realized they needed to forge their own path, face their own challenges.
Without him interfering.
Exactly. There's a wisdom in that, don't you think?
A respect for their independence.
Precisely.
So he's not just protecting them physically, he's allowing them to grow.
And learn.
But he's still watching over them.
It seems so.
Fulfilling his promise.
Yes.
So where does this leave Garruk? He's free from the curse. His powers are restored. But he's been through so much. What do you think the future holds for him?
That's the big question, isn't it? Will he seek out gaurrk, confront the one who tormented him? Or will he return to his solitary ways, wandering the wilds as a guardian of nature?
Or maybe, because of the Kenriths, he'll forge new alliances.
Become a champion for those in need.
So many possibilities. And that's what's so great about Garruk's story. It's a story of transformation, resilience, and the power of good. Even when someone strays from the path, they can find their way back.
Stronger than before.
Garruk's journey reminds us that everyone has the potential for both darkness and light. It's our choices, our connections, that shape who we become. And Garruk, he chose redemption. He chose to honor the kindness he was shown and embrace a new path.
What a powerful message.
Absolutely. Well, that was quite the deep dive. Thanks for joining us as we explored Garruk Wildspeaker. It's amazing to see how much depth and complexity there is to his story, and we hope this has sparked your curiosity to learn even more about the world of magic, the Gathering. Until next time,